Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. In today's special episode, we're switching things up a bit and zooming in on our own southern border. How is the Chinese regime getting fentanyl into the U.S.? Where are the illegal migrants ending up? And what does a secure border actually look like? Joining us to shine a light on all of this is Mike Howell, director of the Oversight Project at the Heritage Foundation and former DHS Oversight Counsel. They just released a new memo titled Tracking Movement of Illegal Aliens from NGOs to Interior of USA. Let's see what they found. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So you're the director of the Oversight Project at the Heritage Foundation, and you guys recently released the first public investigation into really tracking the illegals that have been coming in and who are around the country. So what can you tell us about what you found?
Right, so we purchased bulk cell phone data and we geofenced it to the NGO locations at the border, 30 locations where we found 30,000 unique and anonymized devices. And we surveyed them for a 1-month period, and we found that these devices belonging to illegal aliens went to nearly every single congressional district in the country. In fact, all but one. And so what we proved in this investigation, and we have maps that show this, is that the border crisis really is national in scope. I know that's something we've long said, but I don't think people fully understood how national that really is. It means every congressional district is really impacted by this. And so for the first time, we were able to show that to the American public.
And so when you mean every district, like how do these people end up there? Is it from, the things we've seen in the news with like Governor Ron DeSantis flying them places, or how did people end up everywhere?
Right. Well, it's the NGOs at the border working in close concert with the Biden administration. So what practically happens on the border, an illegal alien crosses, they're apprehended by Border Patrol. Border Patrol then releases them to these nonprofits. The nonprofits then help liaise their travel, lodging, care, meals, etc., basically acting as waypoints and travel agents, and then disseminate them throughout the interior of the country to their end destination. Frankly, what this is the completion of the human smuggling scheme. It's the cartels turning the illegals over at the border, and then Border Patrol taking them and turning them over to the NGOs who finish their trip. And a lot of this is paid for by the U.S. taxpayer.
And so in your investigation, what did you find out about where these people are coming from? Is it just from Mexico, or what are the countries of origin here?
So we focused on people once they arrived in the United States, but I can tell you from our experience in other investigations, we know that people are coming from virtually every single country in the world. I think last checked, it was 157. So you get every single, type of person, age, religion, race, gender. Every country and nationality is virtually represented. That's why, you're seeing problems like we've never encountered before at the border, such as, the terrorist screening database is pinging like wildfire on dozens of these individuals. And the scariest part of all of this, these are just the people that Border Patrol apprehends. In addition to those that they apprehend, there are, about 1 million known gotaways, people that the Border Patrol knows that, got away, as the name indicates. These are the people that do not want to be apprehended by Border Patrol because they have criminal histories, they have terrorist intents, because they're drug smugglers, because they're pedophiles, all sorts of terrible people we don't want in the country. And that number is sky high, record breaking, and that should terrify everyone in America, especially when we now know that these illegal aliens are going everywhere. This isn't just activity that's staying at the border. It's every town is a border town now.
And Mike, speaking of the terrorists, the ones on the watch list and also the drugs coming over, it seems another big issue we've been seeing increasingly over the years is the issue of fentanyl, right? Last year, over 107,000 people died from fentanyl overdoses, and it seems the border is primarily where all of that's coming from. So in your investigation, did you find anything relating to that, or what can you tell us about fentanyl especially?
So we focused on the individuals themselves via their cell phone devices, so we aren't able to drill down at what they may have been carrying. But I can tell you this, when you look at the routes there, they look a lot like drug smuggling routes. If you were to spread fentanyl throughout the United States, that's how you would do it. And so when you look at the NGOs, that these are tax-exempt foundations within the United States, by the way, that are helping distribute people and helping do the cartel's work by taking them there. You're seeing the kind of groundwork and the financial infrastructure and the human movement infrastructure that makes drug smuggling all that much easier. As you well know, Fentanyl doesn't need to be a large quantity at all to do just monumental damage. It only takes a small amount of this stuff. And so when you're looking at the numbers that we see crossing the border, over 5 million people have illegally crossed it under the Biden administration, it's wide open. The chances of getting, large amounts of fentanyl in that could kill hundreds of thousands of people, if not more, it's just a wide open environment. And that's why we're seeing these drug overdose rates just creep up and up and up. It's a national epidemic. And if we were serious about saving these lives, the very first thing we would do is seal that border shut. It's the only way to get our hands around it, because then Border Patrol has the resources and manpower to adequately screen those that are coming through the border and not having to worry about, a million plus people getting away.
Mike, on the note about securing the border, how is that going to be done? Is it that wall? Is it stricter laws? Or how are we really securing it? Because it seems on the flip side, some of the arguments are, oh, we need to make their lives better in their home countries, like in terms of climate or money, and then they won't want to leave. So how do we really secure this border?
Right. Well, it's not going to happen under the Biden administration. It's just not. The left ideologically, especially in their activist community, the higher ranks of the party, are envisioning a borderless, Western hemisphere. They want free movement of peoples. They do not believe in national sovereignty. They'd rather see a cohesive European Union style, continental grouping in our hemisphere. So they're not going to do anything that'll slow the incoming massive amounts of illegal aliens or legal immigration at a massive level into this country. The only way we secure it is we get people in there who are committed to doing it. There are things Congress can do, and now that we'll have an incoming conservative majority in the House, we got together at the Heritage Foundation, along with all of the top senior Trump border and immigration officials and all of the other border expert immigration hawk groups, and came up with a step-by-step legislative plan to do it. Because a lot of the ways the Biden administration is able to take advantage of the law and open the borders is because they have too much discretion. Frankly, the Biden administration should never have been allowed legally to do this. They're clearly violating their oath to the Constitution by doing it, but we shouldn't give them any tools or tactics to make that any easier. And so we're really calling on Congress to seal that all up. Day one of Congress. They can't wait. This isn't something that should take hearings and ongoing negotiations. It's the border's open. We got to close it. Let's get it done.
Mike, speaking of the Congress, it seems in terms of the Senate, they're considering amnesty, and then also pretty soon, I think in December, Title 42 is ending. So how do you see all of that playing into this?
Right. It's very, very disappointing, but very not surprising to see liberal Republican senators in the Senate offering up an amnesty deal, one of the biggest in American history. I think some of the numbers I've seen, initially it could be 2 million, but then you get down sponsorships and chain migration, it explodes. The fact that they are doing this in the middle of the worst border crisis in our nation's history, one that was purposely caused, and thereby rewarding the illegal immigration that the Biden administration has, thrown into this country, is frankly a betrayal of, the people who sent them to Congress to solve this very problem. Amnesty does not work at all. It should never be on the table. And the fact that, when Congress is about to flip, at least in one house, there's a last-ditch effort by liberals in the Senate to get this done for some sort of virtue signaling, I can only presume, is a massive disappointment to conservatives and, frankly, depresses a lot of activism on our side to see, people that we send to Capitol Hill turn their backs on this country and their constituents.
And Mike, you mentioned how amnesty isn't the way to go. So what is the way to go?
Right. First step is you secure that border, you seal it shut. Second step, done in concert, frankly, is you need to remove as many illegal aliens as possible. That's the only thing that's really going to stop illegal immigrations. Right now, people know they can get into this country and stay because there's no threat to be removed. One of the very first things that Biden did is he shut down ICE. Illegal aliens know what ICE is. They also know that it's shut down right now and they stand no chance of being removed. So we got to start removing people. We got to make it very, very difficult, if not impossible, for illegal aliens to work legally in this country. Right now, that's not enforced at all. It's completely under the table. We have to, all these pull factors that make people want to come here, we need to absolutely turn off. Then we need to have an honest discussion as a country as to who gets to come in legally. We have a long history of legal immigration in this country. We've had a ton of immigration, legal and illegal, recently. We need to come to a consensus about what the number should be, and we can only do that credibly as a country once we secure, the illegal immigration that's coming in. That's step one.
And Mike, speaking of the legal immigration part, it seems like those trying to come into the country legally are actually getting punished by the inflow of the illegal ones. It's like it's easier to do it the illegal way now. So For those especially the states bordering the border, like who are feeling it the worst, Arizona and Texas, what are you seeing in terms of those states and what can be done there?
Right. So self-help needs to be built into the system. Texas is obviously doing some things, Operation Lone Star, where they're using their law enforcement to kind of get at the problem. But up until states can physically apprehend and return illegal aliens, they're really not going to be able to do anything to stop this. And so Governor, in the governor's race in Arizona, Kari Lake was mentioning that she would declare an invasion had she been elected. And that would have been something that really would have sparked the conversation in our country about how states can defend themselves, from being overrun by illegal aliens. And so obviously you mentioned earlier that, Ron DeSantis in Florida has sent migrant flights around the country as a way of, making sure that the liberal states feel the pain of what they're doing on the southern states. We need more creative efforts like that. But again, up and until these people are returned immediately and face the consequences for breaking into our country, more are going to come. The Biden administration knows that.
Speaking of the invasion part that Kari Lake was mentioning, with Title 42 ending and based on your own research here, do you see a potential invasion happening at the border, or what do you see happening after 42 being repealed?
Right. There's a big argument in Texas right now about what to do about it. Governor Abbott has creeped closer to, actually declaring an invasion up until, doing things like I mentioned earlier in terms of physically apprehending people. I think when Title 42 ends, that pressure is going to increase rapidly. And what's also happening here in D.C. with Title 42 is the Biden administration is basically holding the country hostage to Title 42. They're saying, give us what we want in the immigration amnesty, or we're going to end Title 42. That's why in the amnesty negotiation, it's Title 42 for amnesty. This is no different than, negotiating with terrorists in a hostage situation. They're basically threatening they will, put a bullet to the head of our immigration system unless they get their way. And frankly, no conservatives should do that. We should not negotiate with legislative terrorists. What they're doing is completely anathema to their duties to this country and should be called out as such, not rewarded.
That was Mike Howell, director of the Oversight Project at the Heritage Foundation and former DHS Oversight Counsel. And for those watching our full episode, after a break, we hear more from him on how an open border is a national security threat and what the average American can do about it. The full episode is available on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you soon.